Joe Schmidt has the enormous task of turning around the disaster that was the Wallabies. And I thought today what we should look into is what his potential first team could look like. And I'm saying potential first team, I mean his first selection in the Rugby Championship. So what we're going to do is we're going to run you through the squad that was in the Rugby World Cup and then look into what team Schmidt might be selecting as he goes forward and tries to right the wrongs of that Eddie Jones. So let's run through the team that went to the Rugby World Cup. 6 props were named: Angus Bell, Pone Fa'amusuli, Zane Nagor, Blake Shoop, James Slipper, Taniela Tupou. Hookers were Matt Fassler, Dave Porecki and Jordan Uese. Locks were Richie Arnold, Nick Frost, Matt Phillip and Will Skelton, who was also named captain. The back row was 5 players with Langy Gleeson, Tom Hooper, Rob Leota, Fraser McWright and Rob Valentini. Scrum halves, the 3 of them: Isaac Fines-Leoesa, Tate McDermott and Nick White. Just the 1 fly half in Carter Gordon. 4 centres with Lalakai Fekiti, Samu Karevi, Isaiah Parisi and Jordan Bataya. We also had 5 outside backs: Max Jorgensen, Andrew Callaway, Marika Korabete, Mark Noanganituase and Suliasu Vunivalu. He also named 2 utilities, which, what even that means, but Ben Donaldson and Josh Kameni. Taking all that in, I think we're going to see a very different squad in terms of the numbers. I don't think we'll see any of this utility rubbish or fly half, 1 fly half sent in by Schmidt. Schmidt is going to be doing what most teams do, isn't going to try and reinvent the wheel. He'll come in, especially I think with his first squad, and select. Let's go through the squad I've selected so far from Super Rugby. Now I'm going to preference this and add the video of Joe Schmidt talking about how he'd love to select players from the region. So rather than selecting international players, which has always been a long talked about thing, is, you know, how many international players get selected, who gets selected. So, you know, the Quade Coopers, even the Will Skeltons may be in doubt.
We had a couple of really young 10s in France at the World Cup, which means some senior players missed out, which was a huge talking point. Is the door selection-wise open to guys like Quade, Bernard Foley, Hoops if he wants to play 15s again, some of those other senior guys that were controversial omissions for France?
I think for me, you know, I'd be a big fan of not just those 10s, but guys like Corambetti, Will Skelton. There are players around the world that are of Australian origin that are right up at the top echelon. But I'd love to be able to pick a Wallabies team from those players that we see here in Australia itself. So the door's definitely not closed. And I think too much of those players that I just mentioned to rule them out. But as Tim just said, there's some good kids coming through. And if you don't invest in them, then it's hard for them to come through. One of the ways to invest, as I mentioned with Johnny Sexton, who is an outstanding player, is to put them in behind someone with experience like Felipe had, and that allows them to grow, because coaches don't do all the coaching at all.
Yeah.
You know, there is a player-to-player coaching that's continuous.
So what I've done is I've said I'm going to eliminate everyone there. I'm only selecting players based off Super Rugby form. Do I think Will Skelton deserves to be in there? Yes, he's one of the best, if not the best lock in the world. And I know South Africans will disagree because Eben Etzebeth is there, but again, I think when Will Skelton's on form, he's one of the best locks in the world. You can make arguments for Marika Korabete and Samu Karevi as well, but again, international players, we're going with those ones on the ground who have made an impression to Joe Schmidt in Super Rugby. Now I'm going to start with the props, and not a lot has changed in this area. Angus Bell from the Waratahs, Taniela Tupou from the Rebels. 2 of the best youngish props in the game. Will do a very good job. We know how talented those 2 are. I've got Matt Gibbon. I think he's played fantastically for the past 2 years for the Rebels. Rebels scrum looks really good. They need some tidying up elsewhere, but I think Matt Gibbon's been good. I've then gone with the 2 Brumbies old boys, James Slipper, Alan Aliatoa. Alan obviously injured, ruptured his Achilles previous to the World Cup, but I think we'll be back in time for the Rugby Championship and looks very good. Last one I've gone for is I think the Reds are flying at the moment, and with that, Zane Nagor obviously was selected in that World Cup side, would have got some good experience, now can take that step up there. Hookers, I've gone Matt Fassler, Dave Parecki, and Lachlan Lonergan. Now, it's a hard one to select. Obviously, Matt Fessler is in the form of his life with the Reds, I think, and playing really good football. And then I go Dave Parecki's hasn't even started or played a game for the Waratahs yet, so I'm only really picking him based off previous experience. And I think Lachlan Lonergan's kind of the next man up from what I've seen in Super Rugby. I think Billy Pollard's a massive talent and is an up-and-comer from the Brumbies, but I think for right now, those would be the three if I'm selecting three from hookers. Locks is a bit of an interesting one. That's where I guess Will Skelton could really put his hand up. Now, I think Nick Frost gets him pretty easily. I think the way he's playing for the Brumbies is very well, even though their form's not that great. I think Ryan Smith could be putting up his name in a Reds jersey and potentially then putting into a Wallabies jersey. You know, you've got to take a lot out of those Reds and how they're performing at the moment. But I've gone Salakai Lotu from the Rebels. I think a big body, tall, played with the Wallabies before. I've gone Jed Holloway from the Waratahs. I think, again, makes sense. And then Jeremy Williams is a bit my outside. He's captaining the Force at the moment. I know the Force aren't off to a very good start with Super Rugby, but I just think that's a talent that can do a really good job in that locking role for the Wallabies. But it is an area of weakness, and it wouldn't surprise me if Will Skelton is named somewhere in there. The back row, and this is where I've changed up. I'm not doing the utility shit, so I've gone 6 back rowers. 5 of them, I'm going to read out a pretty much, I believe, the same, if not very similar to what we saw in the World Cup. We go Langy Gleeson, Fraser McWright, Harry Wilson, Rob Valentini, and Rob Leota. Fraser McWright and Harry Wilson are playing out of the skin for the Reds. I think have to be in there. Langy Gleeson, also very good, has to be in there. Rob Valentini and Rob Leota are the two stand out for me for their teams. Rob Valentini's probably not having the year he had last year, but still a very good player, has to be in there. This leaves us with a whole lot of 6 and 8 potential. You know, Langy Gleeson and Harry Wilson, normally 8s, and only 8 solely 8s. Then you've got Valentini and Leota can cover 6 or 8. So I thought we had to go for another 7. So Charlie Gamble's playing really well, is able to play for the Wallabies. I look around Tizano for the Force, potentially. I've actually gone with Luke Rymere. I don't know if that's how you pronounce his last name. For the Brumbies, he's been fantastic at the start of the Super Rugby season. I think he needs to be in there. Scrum halves, I think, are fairly easy for me. Tate McDermott, number 1 scrum half in the country at the moment, in Australian country. I've then gone Jake Gordon and Ryan Lonergan. Nick White started off slowly with the Force. I think Jake Gordon started off oppositely and started off really well. My issue with Jake Gordon is obviously, people are going to say this, it doesn't seem to transition well from the Waratahs to the Wallabies. And I think that's a big thing for him. He'll have to get right. Ryan Lonergan, I think, has been fantastic. Again, captaining that Brumbies side. I think it's his time to take his opportunity. Fly half is a contentious position. Now, obviously, I only selected 1. I'm selecting 2. All 5 fly halves in Super Rugby franchises for Australia have put their hands up to say they deserve this spot. I've gone with Ben Donaldson, and I know the Force aren't playing well and aren't winning games, but I think Ben Donaldson's playing well. I've then gone Tom Liner. Now, I've gone Liner. I just think the Reds, again, you're playing for a winning team under Les Kiss. I think Joe Schmidt's going to pick that up pretty quickly and go, we like what we see there. Carter Gordon's in and about. Tane Edmund in and about. Noah Lolosea in and about. All those 3. You could select any of those, a combination of those 2. And I don't think you're going to be overly disappointed. I just think for the potential, I go Tom Liner has got the potential. I go Ben Donaldson can bring some experience into that fly half jersey. Centres, I've gone Hunter Paisami, Izzy Parisi, 12 and 13. And then I've gone Len Ikitau. So I've only got 3 there, but I've put an asterisk. And I know this might be controversial. Fakiti is back running, but obviously had a serious neck injury. There's not a lot of 12s. I really like Stewart out of the Force, but again, the Force aren't playing well. So I kind of go, look, is it Hunter Paisami or bust? Joey Walton maybe? What if we select Carter Gordon here and play him as a 12? Now, I'm not saying this is what you want to do necessarily right away, but say we select Carter Gordon as a centre with the ability to play 10 and 12, you give yourself options there. I don't love the idea, but I like it enough to give it a go. If there's a better 12 out there, let me know, because I'm struggling with that position at the moment for the Reds, for the Wallabies, sorry. Lastly, like I said, no utilities now. So lastly, outsides. I've gone Jordan Petaia. I think as your fullback. I just think he's playing fantastically well. You could go Jock Campbell, but I think Petaia is your fullback. I've got Callaway on one wing, and I've got Corey Toole on the other wing. Now, they lack some size there, obviously, but they make it up with their skill and their speed and their ability to just break the line and break the game open. I've got Max Jorgensen as well, can play 15 and wings, so that helps with that. Then we're left with kind of one spot open, and there's lots of players you can put in there. And I know this one's going to be controversial, but I've gone Vunivalu. The Reds again, Les Kiss has backed him. Every coach has kind of backed him, and he hasn't really put his hand up that way, but it gives us a big body on the wing if we need to. And again, it gives the opportunity for Jordan Petaia to move into 12 or 13, Max Jorgensen or Callaway into fullback and him there. So that is the 33 I would select if I was Joe Schmidt right now, picking a 33. If you want me to quickly run through a starting team, this is what I'd go for. Angus Bell and Taliala Tupou to start with Matt Vasilier at the moment. Nick Frost, and I'd go Salakai Lotu as my two locks. In the back row, I'd go Harry Wilson at 8, Fraser McRae at 7, Rob Valentini at 6. Tate McDermott, scrum half with Tom Liner at 10. Centres, Hunter Paisami and Len Ikitau. And then outside back, Jordan Petaia at the back, Callaway and Corey Toole on the wings. On the bench, I'd have Slipper and Alatoa. Or hooker, just because Parecki's in and about, we don't know. Lonergan. Lock reserve, I would go Jed Holloway because we can go 6 as well there. And then that opens up Rob Leota as well. We can have a 6-8. We can have a whole lot of combinations coming off the bench there. Scrum half, Jakey Gordon for now. I would go Ben Donaldson as the 22 jersey. And then I'd go probably Max Jorgensen as the 23. So there's my 23. A lot of really good competition position. And again, in this team, I haven't selected any international players. So chuck Korobeti in the mix. You could chuck Samu Karevi in the mix. And you wouldn't go too amiss with those two either, as well as Scouted. So let's say Scouting comes in for Jeremy Williams. If I was to go back to the free Ghetto law, I'd take Scouting for Jeremy Williams. I'd take Ikitau instead of Carter. I'd take Karevi instead of Carter Gordon. And I'd take Korobeti instead of Vunivalu. My name is Luke. I am part of the Sports Booth team. If you like these videos, please make sure to like and subscribe. Leave a comment with your selection. Who do you think Joe Schmidt will go with his first team for the Wallabies? For now, thank you for joining me. We'll see you next time. Goodbye.